Welcome back to Reality Review, where we review reality. Today we're diving into a critical issue. The Supreme Court is preparing to take up cases that could either check or further empower the reach of the presidency, especially under the Donald Trump administration. What if the next time a president wants to act unilaterally, there's no court to stop them? The Supreme Court is poised to decide just how far presidential power really extends, and the ruling could change American government forever. In 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court is confronting some of the most consequential questions, hearing a series of cases that test the outer limits of presidential authority in decades. What's at issue? Can a president impose sweeping tariffs on their own by executive order? Can they fire heads of independent agencies at will? Can they alter birthright citizenship by decree? Each question could shift the balance between Congress, the courts, and the Oval Office. These are not hypothetical questions. They're on the court's docket right now. So let's look into the push and the precedents. So, precedent of immunity. Last year, the court handed down a major ruling that presidents are presumed immune from prosecution for official acts taken while in office. That decision already expanded executive latitude. Now, with several major power cases lined up, the court must decide whether to keep expanding that power or finally draw a line. Lower court rulings. Courts have struck down some Trump-era actions like broad reciprocal tariffs imposed under emergency authority, saying they exceeded statutory authority. Legal foundations. The debates tie into long-standing doctrines like the Take Care Clause, separation of powers, and limits on removal of independent agency officials. So what are some of the key cases the court will address? Well, here are the big ones to watch. These are the issues, the question before the court, and why it matters. Issue 1, tariffs under emergency power. The question before the court: can the president unilaterally impose nationwide trade tariffs under statutes like the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the IEEPA? Why it matters. If it's allowed, it gives enormous economic control to the executive without needing Congress nationwide, expanding the economic control of the presidency. Issue 2, removal of independent agency heads. And question before the court: can a president fire independent agency heads like commissioners or board members without cause or at will, even over past precedent that required cause? Why it matters. If it's allowed, it affects checks on executive overreach and agency independence. Issue number 3, birthright citizenship. Can a president, by executive order, strip citizenship rights granted by the 14th Amendment, altering who qualifies for citizenship? Question before the court. And then, so why does it matter? It strikes at core constitutional protections and the meaning of U.S. citizenship. These cases go far beyond politics. They test the very foundation of separation of powers. If the court rules broadly for the executive, future presidents could wield authority unseen in modern history. These are the arguments and the tensions. Pro-expansion argues that the executive must be able to act decisively and broadly, especially in economic, foreign, and emergency contexts. They point to the need for a unitary executive and that the Constitution grants it, and that flexibility is essential. Limiters are warning of authoritarian drift. If courts defer too much, presidents may abuse power, bypass Congress, and erode democratic institutions, allowing one branch to dominate the rest. They say it's Congress, not the president, that writes the nation's laws. So, a central tension. Whether major questions of national policy require explicit congressional authorization or whether courts will let the president proceed on more implicit or general statutes. So what should we expect and what's likely? The court is already signaling a difference in some urgent appeals. But when it fully considers these matters, it may draw clearer boundaries, ruling that some executive actions are invalid unless Congress clearly empowers them. Some analysts predict a split the baby outcome, partial wins and losses, so that the court doesn't appear overtly partisan. Ultimately, the decisions could redefine the balance between branches of government, expanding executive power, constraining it, or somewhere in between. The implications if the court leans one way or the other. So if the court leans toward executive power expansion, presidents may act more unilaterally, especially on trade, regulation, immigration, and foreign policy. Congress's role could diminish further with less oversight or ability to curb executive actions, and then the notion of checks and balances could be weakened, raising concerns of abuse. But if the powers are constrained, the executive branch would remain tethered to statutory limits and judicial review. Congress retains meaningful influence over policy, and the role of courts as a guard against executive overreach is reinforced. So, we're watching a turning point. The Supreme Court isn't just deciding individual disputes, it could redefine what it means to be president and how democracy holds power accountable. When these rulings come down, we all need to pay attention because the limits on power aren't just legal concepts, they shape the future of our society. So, if you enjoyed this breakdown, please hit the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to set notifications so that you receive updates. Leave a comment below. What do you think? Should a president have a near limitless power in emergencies, or must we hold them tightly to the law? I'm Oklahoma for Reality Review, and until the next time, cheers.